President Buhari visits site of Kuje prison attack. He says he's disappointed. The president asked several questions on the attack as terrorists are now in the wind and unaccounted for. And a lawsuit has been instituted today to stop Bola Tinubu, Peter Obi, and Kwame and some others running in the presidential election 2023 from changing whom they refer to as placeholders, running mates to INEC. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimbale in Abuja. Let's begin tonight by reminding those who are in power and those who are concerned that there's a segment of the Nigerian public that are not happy at all. Now, it's 44 days since university lecturers in federal universities in the country began an indefinite strike action, keeping students away from the classrooms. The standoff between the federal government and the university lecturers continue, and the students continue to be idle. They say their idle hand is a devil's workshop. Nigerians are looking forward to the stakeholders and government especially to get their acts together to resolve this national embarrassment as fast as they can. Let's begin the program tonight by letting you know that there is an intriguing lawsuit which may cause some stir as far as the 2023 presidential election is concerned. A federal high court sitting in Abuja, the nation's capital, has been asked to stop the All Progressives Congress APC from replacing Alhaji Kabiru Masari as the running mate to Bola Tinubu, the presidential candidate of the party in the 2023 presidential election. Shortly after Tinubu emerged as the presidential candidate of the APC, the name of Masari was submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) as an interim vice presidential candidate. The plaintiffs joined APC, INEC, Bola Tinubu, and Kabiru Masari as defendants in the suit marked FHC ABJCS 1059/2022 and dated 4th of July 2022. The plaintiffs want the court to determine whether, having regard to the combined effect of Section 142, subsection 1, and Sections 29, subsection 1, 31, and 33 of the Electoral Act, it is legally permissible for Masari to withdraw as a vice presidential candidate of the APC and the running mate of Tinubu, so as to be substituted with replaced with another person by APC and its candidate for the office of the vice president for the purpose of the February 25, 2023 presidential election. However, two chieftains of the party who were delegates in the just concluded APC National Convention, Zakari Megari and Zubaran Tu Muhammad, approached the court to stop INEC from accepting change of vice presidential candidate from APC. Well, with this lawsuit, if backed by law and the court accept the prayers of the plaintiffs, then not only the APC may be affected, the Labour Party that has Dr. Doyin Okupe as a placeholder or running mate to Mr. Peter Obi, or Mr. Robbie Kwonkonso of the NNPP, who has Mr. Ladipo Johnson as a placeholder or running mate, might be affected, as well as some other political parties who are thinking in like manner or who are making similar arrangements might be affected. Well, President Buhari today presented the APC flag to the governor of Osun State, Boyega Oyetola, and the candidate of the APC in the governorship election in Osun State 2022. The president gave the flag as a sign of support to the governorship candidate and the presidential villa, and he's asked the party to go ahead and win the state for the APC. Take a listen.
There is no serious division, as it were, in APC in Osun. We have issues which is ordinarily, likely to happen in any party, and we've done a lot of reconciliation. As I speak, a number of them have actually come back to join us, for this coming elections. So I believe we are together with them. In addition to that, like was mentioned, no less than more than 10,000 the campaigns came from the other party, and we still have a lot of them that are supporting us. As for the question of performance, I believe by any standard, I've done very well to deserve a second term.
We've been to Osun State. We've seen that indeed we have a credible candidate to sell. We've had myself and Governor Ganduje and a few other governors fire me, a few ministers. We've been on campaign trail with them. And the turnouts of citizens at each of the campaign ground not only testament, you could see joy, happiness on their faces.
Governors of Osun and Lagos State, Boyega Oyetola, and the candidate of APC in Osun State, and the governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Well, there are a lot of questions on the minds of Nigerians. And it's actually intriguing that the President, Muhammadu Buhari, is also asking the same question. When he got to the site of the Kuje prison attack, it was a disaster. In the heart of the Abuja, the nation's capital, terrorists attacked that facility. And now, a lot of them are unaccounted for. That gets us talking. It's worrisome. The nation needs to sit up, and this needs to be fixed. And that's why we'll be asking for solutions tonight and hit the nail on the head. No sparing any problem right now on the program. But we'll first and foremost check your political roundup stories.
The Independent National Electoral Commission and security operatives have been charged to ensure arrest and prosecution of vote buyers and violence perpetrators ahead of the Osun State governorship election. A civil society organization specialized in observing elections, Yaga Africa, gave the charge while briefing journalists on its pre-election observation in various local government areas in Osun State.
Barely 10 days to the Osun governorship elections, and the rate of voter inducement across the state is increasing.
The People's Democratic Party is banking on its successful reconciliation of the two factions in Osun State to win the July 16 governorship election. As the chairman of Osun and Lagos State PDP Reconciliation Committee, Mr. Eyitayo Jegede, submitted its report to the National Working Committee in Abuja. Speaking in Abuja, Mr. Jegede assures the PDP leadership of victory as the leaders of the two factions in Osun State have agreed to work together into July 16 governorship election. The People's Democratic Party in Osun State is alleging that the APC-led government in the state has denied the party approval of venue for its mega rally. The caretaker chairman of the party, Adekunle Akindele, who disclosed this at a press conference in Osogbo, described the development as the height of intolerance by the Boyega Oyetola-led administration.
We have options as stakeholders in the affairs of your state to hold the rally, but state government also have options to be reasonable in managing the state at a time like this.
Chairman of the People's Democratic Party, PDP in Ebonyi State, Tochukwu Okorie, says his purported suspension by some members of the party led by his deputy Ifeanyi Nwore is of no effect. Mr. Okorie made this statement as he reacted to his alleged dismissal from office, noting that the events that produced that outcome violate some provisions of the PDP constitution that gives him the exclusive right to convene such a gathering on behalf of the party in the state. The Independent National Electoral Commission says it has created an additional 1,607 polling units in Oyo State. The commission explained that the polling units were created to allow more eligible voters exercise their franchise during the forthcoming 2023 general elections. The outgoing resident electoral commissioner in Oyo State, Mr. Mutiu Agboke, disclosed this to journalists in his last press briefing as Oyo Rec in his office at Agodi Ibadan. The new polling units were added to the existing 4,783 to make a total of 6,390 units.
The commission converted additional 1,607 polling units to the initial 4,873 polling units, making a total of 6,390 polling units in Oyo State.
And the Federal High Court in Abuja has granted permission to former Imo State Governor Rochas Okorocha to travel to the United States for medical attention. While granting the permission, Justice Inyang Ekwo ordered the registrar of the court to release the traveling passport of the former governor to him to undertake the medical trip.
Plead with the Honorable Court to kindly release his travel document for a while so that he could travel for his health, so that he would be strong enough to be able to stand trial.
It was some news that came filtering late yesterday night that the Kuje prison, one of the prisons that you will say is perhaps the most fortified in the country, was under attack. It was under siege and gunshots were heard. We understand that there was some explosion that happened also at that site yesterday. Early this morning, the details of the news became more glaring as pictures started coming in on what really happened at the Kuje prison in Abuja. President Muhammadu Buhari visited that site. He says he's disappointed with the intelligence system and utilization at the Medium Security Custodial Center, Kuje, in Abuja. He said this when he visited the site, or speaking also to journalists during his visit to the correctional facility, which came under attack by terrorists last night. The president said, quote, "I'm disappointed with the intelligence system." The president was also quoted as saying that how can terrorists organize have weapons, attack a security installation and get away with it? Soon after he arrived at the facility, the president was briefed about the attack by the permanent secretary at the Ministry of Interior, Dr. Shua Belgore, and the Controller General of Nigerian Correctional Service, Aliru Nababa. Earlier on also, the Minister of Defense was at the site, and this is what he had to say.
I think we are trying to see what we can do to ensure that all the escapees are brought back to the prison yard. And I think the prison is accommodating about 994 inmates. And SPP about we have about 600 already inside now. And, 24. And many people are recaptured and have been brought back to the prison. Maybe by the close of the day, more will have been captured and returned to prison. I think everything is under control. The people who came to do these activities, from the records, we believe that they belong to a particular group, and most likely they are Boko Haram, because we have a sizable number of Boko Harams that are in detention, and presently we could not locate any of them. Only number, I think there are about 64 that is in the prison, and none of them now is available. They have all escaped.
Now, let's allow you to look at this breakdown so that you can get a sense of what is happening. We understand that almost 1,000 inmates are there at that medium custodial center in Kuje. Out of about 994, we understand that it might be more, it might be less, but that's what the figures that we're getting. Out of that, we understand that over 60 of the terrorists, about 63 of them, are unaccounted for out of the 994 inmates. The escapees that have been recaptured are 350 of them, and 450 unaccounted for. Now, this is what the president said. I'd like you to take a look at it. I quoted part of what the president said. He said he was disappointed, and I kept asking a few questions. Now, look at what bothers the mind of the president, the issue of CCTV. He says, how did the defenses and the prison fail to prevent the attack? How many inmates were in the facility? How many of them can you account for? Have on duty? How many of them were armed, were on guard? Did the CCTV work? I'm disappointed with the intelligence system. How can terrorists organize, have weapons, attack a security installation, and get away with it? These are the words of President Buhari. And perhaps If you're watching wherever you may be watching, either on your palm top, your phone, or your devices, or you're in your home, you're watching in Nigeria outside of the country, perhaps you have asked this question today, and the same question about in our minds today. And that's what we're seeking to get answers. First and foremost, you need to understand what this custodial center, this Kuje prison, how fortified, how strong, is it the most fortified that some people describe it? Let's ask one person who has been in charge of this custodial center. He's a former Minister of Interior, a retired general in the Army, General Abdulrahman Dambazau, who joins us live from Owerri. Thank you so much, General, for joining us tonight on the program. Give us an understanding. How fortified is Kuje? For those who say it's perhaps, you can describe it as the safest custodial center or prison facility or correctional facility in Nigeria.
Thank you, Shaun. I'm glad to be here to explain one or two things. First, Kuje prison certainly has its own security issues, and I will say this clearly. When I was Minister of Interior, I visited Kuje prison twice, and I made some observations which I put in writing to the the Controller General then. And one of those observations was the attitude of the personnel in charge of the prison, because I found that quite a number of them were not serious with their duties. And one of the major observations I made was that the towers erected in the prisons were never manned. And I went there the second time, it happened again. I saw the same observation. And I asked the Controller General to put a query against those who were on duty, including the controller in charge. Then, a few weeks after, there was a jailbreak.
Having some issues with the connection there. But let me bring to the conversation, as soon as we are able to reconcile the connection with General Dambazau, we'll be able to get back to him. Let me bring to the conversation Group Captain Shehu, a retired military officer. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
It's a pleasure.
And I have with me a security expert, Mr. Bulama Bukati, who joins us from London. Thank you so much, Mr. Bukati, for joining us tonight. Not the best of time for Nigeria. First and foremost, what the news about the attack on the convoy, the advanced party of the president. The president, we understand, might be visiting Dora for the festivity. His advanced party was attacked. 2 persons were said to have been injured. Then the story on the news of the Kuje prison facility. First and foremost, what is your preliminary or your immediate reaction? What did you, what sense did you get from what really happened there?
In Kuje.
In Kuje.
Thank you very much. First, with all sincerity, I will say I'm happy to hear that the president said he was disappointed. I've never been to Kuje, just passed on my way to the airport. But when there is a national issue, it is everybody's issue. I took time to go to Kuje prison for the first time today, and I was noting the terrain and the access to the prison, right from when I turned off the main road and went. Now, the issue is as soon as you come towards Kuje, the main prison itself, what strikes you is a neglected, derelict building. The main gate, which you will enter, is so crowded with trees, with overgrown shrubs, that you cannot see 10 meters ahead of you. My estimation is that if somebody, especially somebody with a bad plan, wants to move on that Kuje prison, even if there is a sentry at the gate, that sentry will not know that man is approaching until the man is upon the factory. I had the president said he is disappointed with CCTV and the rest. with due respect, the president, if he had come the way I came down from outside, even though I know his convoy will enter, he will drop at inside. Even the walls, the outer walls of the Kuje prison, they are too low for a prison perimeter wall. The sketchy barbed wire they put on top is against regulation. There are standards of how a security wall that is housing a prison should be. You should be talking about a wall that is putting 8 to 15 feet. 8 to 15 feet, the outer.
So it's less than 8 feet?
It's less than that. By my estimation, because I can estimate height, that what I saw there is about 7 feet maximum. That is the standard. And you are supposed to put 3, rolls of barbed wire on top. The idea is at least to delay an attacker. Now you are even talking about the wall. When you come approaching the building, you meet this wall. But when you enter to your right, to your left, to the front, almost 270%, an intruder can get into that prison easily. First, the place is clustered, overgrown with grasses, which will give any attacker even cover, especially in the night. This people came in the night. Even in the afternoon, there is enough cover for you to move onto that prison until you are near where the inmates are kept. The requirement is that between the outer wall, you should have two fences in a normal prison, the outer one and the inner one. Between the outer one and the inner one may be opaque, like a wall, but the inner one should be like a fence, which allows for visibility. Between these two, you are supposed to have a clear area, what the military might call a clean zone, so that if somebody breaches the outer lawn, you have a time to engage him before he reaches the main building. That killing zone does not exist in that building. The outside, where it's supposed to be, where you're seeing the vehicles here, is packed with a lot of vehicles. Even those vehicles can give cover. To the left, to the right, when you enter, is a deep ravine and gully. And I learned it is through there that the attackers came, because I learned, unless if I'm wrong, that they came by foot.
They came on foot?
They came on foot.
They came about 11 p.m.
About 11 p.m.
And we understand that they attacked for about 3 hours.
For about 3 hours. So
and they were raining gunshots on
response. The outer wall is not there. The approach from all sides is covered by weeds and grasses. It's afternoon. I cannot, would save the quality of the security lights that are there. But the security lights are so, again, they are fixed security lights. If at all they are working, we know the problem with light, whether they have a standby generator. But even then, the best security lights are movable lights.
Yes. First and foremost, let's get it clear. You visited a few correctional facilities,
I have.
Right?
Yes.
Would you describe Kuje, from what has been said, I was going to ask General Dumbuza, because he was in charge of all the facility when he was Minister of Interior, whether or not truly Kuje is one of the most fortified in the country.
Thank you very much. Well, in prison security, prisons are categorized into 3. There is high security or maximum prison. There is medium security. There is low security. Now, when inmates are in, you do a security analysis. This person you are giving, is he a high security risk? Is he a medium security risk? That is why you are going to put him. By that categorization alone, Kuje is supposed to be a medium security prison. So that is to say, it's supposed to be a bit lower than what we have.
A maximum prison.
That we have in
Kirikiri.
Kirikiri. Exactly. I don't know whether we have another one. It's lower. But then again, that raises another question. Right now, the most dangerous criminals we have in Nigeria are Boko Haram terrorists.
And they were there.
And you are putting them in a
64
medium,
of them are in the wind right now.
And you are putting them in a medium security. So you see, there's a mismatch.
Just
a security prison, sorry, please, let me finish.
Right.
A security prison, that's what they call categorization and allocation. You categorize the inmates based on their dangerosity. Then you decide whether this one is going to high security or low security or medium security. What do you have in Kuje? You say it's medium security. You are bringing the highest criminals we have, and you are mixing them with politically exposed persons. I learned that there are governors there, the police officer who is on investigation or on trial, like I said, they are all there. It is not supposed to be. That is the purpose of categorization and allocation.
Just give me a moment, because let's get back. I understand that we were able to connect again with General Dumbuza. So I was asking, apologies there for the outage of that connection. So you were describing the situation. You've raised this alarm. You've sent out a written query when you were in office. And the porosity, I mean, the president's question today was on the issue of the porosity of the defense system of this prison, especially the one that is housing 64 Boko Haram terrorists. Then the question is, how can these terrorists attack for more than 1 hour? With about 2 times they had explosives thrown into the perimeter of the facility, brought it down, rain gun power on that facility, and no repelling and no form of cover for several hours until almost all the inmates left. What could have gone wrong majorly?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. It's straightforward. One, as the group captain mentioned, Kuje prison is not a maximum security prison. It's a medium security prison. And secondly, such prison, I see it as a convenient prison, particularly for the courts. A lot of the judges, when they are remanding prisoners, they remand them to Kuje prison, no matter how dangerous they are, because it's probably the only prison of that type in the area. And this informed the decision that a 3,000 capacity prison that of the maximum level should be built somewhere around there. And I think the construction is ongoing. Secondly, I started mentioning that the fact that there's one clear thing I observed while I was Minister of Interior, that is the attitude of the staff themselves. And incidentally, last week I was in Sokoto, whereby there was a retreat of the correctional service. And the theme of that retreat is a public expectation of the Nigerian Correctional Service. And that is in relation to the act recently signed, that is in 2019, the Nigerian Correctional Service Act 2019. And from all indications over the years, the Nigerian Prison Service has not been able to meet the minimum standards of the treatment and rehabilitation of prisoners as provided by the United Nations. And also, and I think that is what informed the shift from the whole idea of prisons to the new idea of corrections. But one thing is clear is that over 70% of the inmates in Kuje prisons, that I know by the time I left about 4 years ago, I left the ministry about 4 years ago, over 70% are those awaiting trials, and some of them are dangerous. And it's true that I also met, when I resumed, I met quite a significant number of Boko Haram suspects who have been there for a number of years, and I think some of them were in that prison for 6-7 years before I came in as Minister of Interior. That raised my interest in going around to even find out in other prisons. It is even worse, the number of Boko Haram suspects that are in Kirikiri prisons, and those that are in Maiduguri prisons, and those that are in Kaenji. Based on that, I approached Mr. President, and I told him that, look, we have an issue here because most of these suspects, Boko Haram suspects in prisons, they have been there, no records, they have not been investigated. So to even prosecute them wouldn't be possible because you can't send somebody to court without proper investigation. So I suggested that we should have a committee that will go around to look at these inmates, the Boko Haram suspects, and profile them, identify them, know those who are likely to have committed some terrorist actions that could be prosecuted. And the committee went round. The committee was chaired by retired General A.B. Mamman, and there was a gentleman, a professor, who was the secretary, Professor Akanji, from the University of Ibadan. They did a good job, a very good job. And that was forwarded to the secretary, the SGF. And I even gave a copy to the president. I left about 4 years ago. I don't know what happened next to that report. But in that report, they made far-reaching recommendations on those Boko Haram inmates. And of course, there are very dangerous criminals or suspects accused of very serious crimes like armed robbery, murder, and so on, who have been kept in prison. They are there in Kuje too. Like I said, 70% of those inmates are awaiting trial, who cannot be even engaged by the prison staff because they remain suspects. They remain accused persons. They have not been convicted. And some of them have been there for several years. When they go to, and we found that there were difficulties in taking them to court because of logistics issues. So,
General,
briefed Mr. President.
we're due for a break. One thing that I would like I'd like you to give us insight on is the defenses. The president was asking what happened to the defenses, to the prison, to the custodial facility. What about the CCTV? Where are they? Are they working? Did they work at all? And what happened to the response time? Because sometimes all over the world, it is not how fortified a facility is. It's the response time. I would like you to give us some insight to what is available and perhaps a lesson. Now that we have these Boko Haram elements in the wind, close to the nation's capital, what are the dangers and the solutions to it? Stay with me, General. We'll also have Mr. Bulama Bukati and Group Captain Shehu right here with me on the program. We're dissecting all the issues from all of the angles. We'll be right back in a moment. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us right here on the program. Our former Minister of Interior, General Abrahaman Ndombazao, is in Owerri for us tonight, giving us insight on what is happening as far as the Kuje Prison Service Custodial Center is concerned. What really happened? We're getting a sense of what happened and the disappointment that the president says he has. As someone who has been in charge of those facilities before, what exactly does it mean? Also, we're getting insight from a former military officer, Group Captain Shehu, who is here with me in our Abuja studio, and from London is a security consultant and a researcher, Mr. Bulama Bukati. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming tonight. Let's get back quickly to General Ndombazao. Give us a sense of how structured this custodial facility is in terms of response time, in terms of the defense mechanism that the president has mentioned. I'm not sure you can hear me. So let me go to London with Mr. Bukati. Mr. Bukati, now we are understanding a lot of stories flying around, but the authentic ones are the one we can go home with. There are those who have said in Abuja that they have been advised that they should go home early in the evening and not stay out at some parks and all of that. It does look there are some intelligence that are flying around. The question, one of the big questions the president asked is what happened to intelligence? From what happened at that facility, what do you think happened to intelligence?
Yeah, Shaun, this attack is much more than an attack on just one facility, and therefore analyzing the security systems of the Abuja Kuje prison is important, but it's missing the fundamental point. The fundamental point is that the Nigerian security infrastructure has been completely overwhelmed. It is incapable of dealing with our security challenges. And here is why I said this. Number one, these fighters, the attackers did not drop from the skies of the Kuje prison or grow up from the grounds there. They traveled from somewhere. They traveled with their vehicles, with their logistics, and with their weapons, and they were not detected by our security and law enforcement agencies, and their orchestration of the attack must have taken days, and that was not detected by our intelligence agencies. That's number one. When they started operating, they operated for over 3 hours with their sophisticated weapons in the Federal Capital Territory, and no response was there to reinforce the security systems in the Kuje prison and defeat them. And therefore, they ended up defeating the defense system there. They broke into the prison, they broke into the Central Terrorism Unit, and they freed the 64 Boko Haram suspects that are there. That's number two. Number three, after they have finished the operation, they traveled back. They did not stay in Kuje prison. They were not detected. They went back to where they came from. And this prison, although it's called medium security prison, it's supposed to be the most secure prison in Nigeria. Because number one, it is in the Federal Capital Territory. And the presumption is that the Federal Capital Territory is the most secure city in the country. Number two, it is where the most high-profile Boko Haram suspects are held. There are Boko Haram suspects in Kirikiri. There are Boko Haram suspects in Maiduguri. There are Boko Haram suspects in Kainji, thousands of them. But these 64 are the most dangerous, the most senior leaders and commanders of Boko Haram that were being held there. But these people were able to break into the prison and free all of them, and along with about 300 others. This is much more about an attack on one facility. This is our security system not working. This is our security infrastructure breaking down. And this is signs of danger and horror in the months to come, unfortunately.
All right, Mr. Bukati, quickly let me ask you a follow-up on, since you mentioned on the situation in that facility. Is it true, because you have done a lot of research on this Boko Haram element, is it true that in that facility were Boko Haram members of the Yusuf generation, the first generation of Boko Haram members? Is it also true that ISWAP members had released a video before now stating that their plans is also to attack facilities where some members of theirs were being kept? Have you heard about this? What do you know? What can you tell us?
Yeah, as I said, number one, your number one question, there are some of the early legacy members of Boko Haram are in Kuje prison. And I can tell you, even the overall leader of Ansaru, who was arrested in 2012, our understanding is that he is in Kuje prison. And this was the factional leader of the entire faction of Ansaru, which is affiliated to Al-Qaeda. And so the most senior members and commanders are in the prison. Regarding prison breaks, Ansaru, but also, ISWA, but also Ansaru have been dropping hints that they are going to free their members, and they have been sending messages to their members that are in prison that it is only a matter of time. You are going to be released. You are going to escape from there. God is going to bring you out of there, and you will continue the struggle. You should continue to persevere and be patient. And this is a message that has been occurring in, I can give you several of their videos in which they said that. Now, one other point is that this attack tells us or demonstrates to us that Boko Haram continues to expand. Even in the heydays of Boko Haram between 2012 and 2014, they did not have cells outside, that are based outside the northeastern part of Nigeria. But what we have seen in the last 2 months are 4 attacks in Kogi. There have been attempted attacks in Kano. Some parts of Taraba that have never been attacked have been attacked in the past 2 months. Some parts of Yobe that have never been attacked have been attacked in the past 2 months. And now the Abuja prison has been attacked. When the United Nations headquarters in Abuja was attacked in 2011, it was a suicide bomber from Maiduguri that was deployed to launch that attack. He wasn't based in Abuja. But these attackers, from what we can gather, are most likely the cell that is based in the northwest and the north central part of Nigeria. And now that they have freed 64 of their most senior leaders and commanders, you know that they are going to get deadlier. And we are just 8 months away from our elections. This is very dangerous. And this country has got to wake up to understand what we are facing and for government to do the right thing and to ensure that our country is not thrown into chaos just before elections.
Now, let me come back to you, Group Captain. With what you describe yourself and Mr. Bukati, it does look like these guys got the schematics of the prison, because I'm not sure it took them too long a time to know where these inmates were. For one of the information that we're getting is that, in fact, there are communication from the outside to the inside of some of where the inmates were. In fact, some of the stories are that there are communications from as soon as they arrived and they knew where they were, exactly where they were, and they were speaking in languages other than English, asking them to go, and they were freeing all of them. Now, the question is, how are they able to organize, infiltrate Abuja, infiltrate the prison yard? How sophisticated how long could they have been planning this from the intelligence point of view?
They are sophisticated. But on the other hand, our response is not sophisticated. You see, give it to the countries that are ahead of us. All these procedures about how to, segregate prisoners, how to prevent information coming from outside into inside, there are standard procedure, there are well-known procedure. For example, after analyzing Boko Haram members that are caught as very dangerous criminals, one of the things you do when you are keeping them in custody is to put them in individual cells. If you put them in individual cells, you have broken communication between them. But whereby you go and lump them in one place, communication will flow. You also have to be careful how many people are allowed visitation, and when somebody is visiting, how do you frisk the person? How does the person? We see this even in films. There must be a prison officer if somebody, the only thing he might just move a few steps, but he's within earshot of whatever is going. You are not going to pass any message. You are going to talk, and then you go. And you keep them individual cells. If they are individual cells, it makes it even difficult the breakout, because it means you have to go to individual cells to spread them out. But where you put them in a bunch, all they need to do is to understand where they are going. Now, the other issue about the security network of any prison is a physical security thing. There are 4 things you need to put in place. First, a deterrence. Deterrence, like my boss, the general, said, deterrence alone, before you do any break, is like kidnapping. They must have done reconnaissance. Your reconnaissance, for somebody who's planning to attack on the first day, he will even see what is the attitude of the workers there. Are they casual? How many are they? What happens in the night? That is an information for him. But if he comes to see, as soon as he's coming, hey, who goes there? He goes through frisking before they even allow him. To him, that is to say, look, it's not going to be easy to enter this place. That may deter him. If that fails, detection. Detection is what the president is talking about: CCTV, about tripwires, about intrusion detection system. All these are modern gadgets, which if really you have dangerous people, is worth investing, but we don't want to invest in that. You can wire the perimeter of that distance from wherever somebody comes. All he needs is to trip one wire, light will come there. And then whoever is on sentry on that tower, he will see him. And even coming to the tower also is for detection. But what I found when I see the tower, if you check that distance, the tower was too much inside the building. Tower should be to the perimeter. To the perimeter. To the outer fence. Where it is now. Even if somebody's on that tower, to be honest with you, he cannot see anything.
All right, just give me, Group Captain, give me 1 minute. Let me get back to General Dumbazar. Now, General, if you look at some of the questions that the president was asking, includes, he said, I'm disappointed with the intelligence system. How can terrorists organize, have weapons, attack a security installation, and get away with it? What do you make of these questions that the president has asked?
Yes, what the president said is perfect. In the first place, if there were adequate intelligence, in the first place, those terrorists or gunmen that attacked the prison would not have the opportunity to do so. It would have been preempted long before they even come near the prison. So, but I'll go back to your last statement. The fact that no matter how defensive, is how well defended such facility has been organized. If the response time to such emergency is not there, it means nothing. So, which means there is clear, issue between the monitoring itself and even the capacity to respond. So these things will have to go together. It also tells us one thing, that the security agencies are mostly operating in silos. They are not working together. Because if they do, then when the intelligence is there, because I understood that they had information beforehand that there was possibility that such attack would take place. It's either those who were there physically to be able to defend that place do not have the capacity to do so, or they were lousy in doing their job. But like I said earlier on, one of the issues, and even last week we discussed it in Sokoto when we had the retreat, and I was invited. We talked about the attitudinal issue of some of the prison staff. They need to look at it. And like I said, that was my first observation, initial observation. So if we want our security system to work well, then we must be able to combine the capacity to monitor and the capacity to respond. And I want to say that those members of Boko Haram in Kuje prison have been there for close to 10 years. My first question when I went there, because I thought that was not a proper place for them, was that they were undergoing a de-radicalization program organized within the Office of the National Security Advisor, which started around 2012 or 2011 or so. And what that meant was that they were not even inmates of the prisons, by implication. So I think we need to do things properly. And we need to also hold somebody responsible for not doing his job. Because that's what I did. When there was prison escape, 2 persons escaped from Kuje prison, and I said the CG then should investigate. After investigation, he forwarded this recommendation to the board. The board said, look at the recommendation. And we fired the controller. And so many people come begging that he should. So we said, no, this is not based on any sentiment. Purely because there were 2 queries against him, and he failed in doing his job. So he should go. And, right. And I think
General,
if we
to wrap up because
make
of
sure
time,
that
quickly,
somebody doesn't
and I'd like
do
to ask
yes.
you, if you have the power
yes.
to do something about the situation, this is one prison break too many. We've had these in the last 2 years. We've had several of them. What would be the next line of action, or what solution would you be proffering in this situation? If you have the power to take action, what would you do? Just about 30 seconds.
Well, I want to tell you that there are two or three levels, because there is the short term, there is the medium term, there is the long term. In the long term, I want to tell you that the prisons we have today, and unfortunately, new ones are being built now in each of the geopolitical zone. There is a standard prison being built to meet up the standard. But what we have today, most of them have not met the standard. Some of them were built 100 years ago. Kano prison, for instance, Port Harcourt prisons, they were built 100 years ago. They were built by mud, and they were not built to take the number of emails that they are taking now. So supervision is extremely difficult to do. So we need to reconstruct the prisons. We need to train the staff. We need to equip them. And we need to discipline staff who fails to do his job. And there's need also to have cooperation among the security agencies.
General Dambazao, thank you so much indeed for your time tonight. Let me go around the room now with Mr. Bukati before I come here in the Abuja studio. And I'd like to ask you, these guys are in the wind. Intelligence operatives will tell you that the very first few minutes and hours after this kind of incident are very critical and crucial if you want to make any headway. Where do you think we should be looking? What do you think we should be doing? Because you've described them as some of the most dangerous human beings that we can find in the country.
No, unfortunately, I will tell you, Sion, that there is no hope of arresting these suspects that have escaped. When the Abuja-Kaduna train attack happened months ago, the security forces should have pursued the attackers and the victims should have been rescued. But until today, many people are still in custody. And with all the school kidnappings and all the other attacks we have seen, nowhere was any victim ever rearrested or rescued by the security forces. But as I have said in the beginning, we should not see this attack as an attack on one facility. It is a signal that nowhere in Nigeria is safe. It speaks volumes about the freedom of movement terrorists enjoy in Nigeria. It also tells us that Boko Haram is expanding and Abuja is within striking distance. This is exactly the statement I made about 6 months ago, that Boko Haram is building in Niger and Nasarawa state, and Abuja would be attacked. Now, it is for us to review our security infrastructure. It is for the federal government and state government to sit down and develop a plan. Nigeria does not have a plan of fighting these groups, and we cannot continue without a plan. We have got to get a plan that will clearly state what the federal government's role is, what state governments should do, what local governments should do, and what communities should do. And this we don't have now. We don't have leadership. We don't have plan in the security sector, unfortunately.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bukati, for your intervention. Let me finally get the final thoughts of Group Captain. Where do we go from here? From your own standpoint, technically speaking, there is fire on the mountain. Yes. How do we handle this?
Adopt modern prison security and safety management systems. There are guidelines for these things, right from how you plan, how you build, how you run, how you put procedures, even how you put lighting, what is the height of a wall in a prison, what kind of material are going, all these things are stated, but we like cutting corners.
You don't have to create one from the top.
No.
Just copy and paste what
copy and paste.
America has a very good, solid prison system.
They have standard. If they're building already, you know what you are going to build.
But the most important thing is these guys that are in the wind. They are dangerous.
Well,
in Abuja, how do we get this thing fixed? The security situation. There is a breach, obviously.
Well, thanks to the my Ogadi General, we have seen that. Like I said, people are supposed to be categorized according to their danger. If they're serious people, put them in maximum security. But here we are looking of convenience versus security. Convenience because the courts are in Abuja, so you mix Boko Haram with the governor of Plateau and the governor of this. It's not even, in fact, those governors would have been killed. That's another issue. They could have been killed by those people that attacked there. So you are even endangering other prisoners that are not dangerous. Now, secondly, one thing I am happy. With due respect, this is the first time I'm hearing the president voicing out, I am disappointed. This disappointed should move into holding the heads of security agencies responsible.
All right. Thank you so much, good captain.
Reward for good performance and firing and punishment for failures.
Thank you so much, Group Captain, for your time tonight. Always a pleasure having you. Mr. Bulama Bukati, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for your interventions. And General Abdurrahman Dambazao, it's good to see you again, General. Thank you so much for your intervention. Well, that's our show for tonight, everyone. Don't forget, Channels Television Osun Governorship Debate is on Sunday, 7 p.m., live in Osogbo. 5 candidates will be on the stage. An experience you must watch. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. I'm Chiwa Kimale. Bye-bye.